resuming with the recording. So welcome, men. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to hand over to Paul for a moment just to introduce himself to you as well. So this evening is really just about sharing a little bit more about the work that we're doing in the men's space in general, without deep diving into any of the actual processes. Then to hand over to Paul, who's going to take us through an embodiment experience. And then we're going to just discuss a little bit more about the actual journeys that we're taking men on this 4-day wilderness immersion that we've put together last year and has been running very successfully since we started it. So we'll hone in on that, and specifically the value that men can get from that experience. And there we'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff we do without, again, deep diving into any actual processes. And then, of course, there'll be time for some questions or comments if you guys have. The fact that we are a very small group this evening, I doubt whether we'll go on for a full 90 minutes. We might be done within an hour or so, but famous last words, because I do tend to get carried away sometimes, and then Paul has to like reel me in. Let me just start off by introducing myself. Volker, I mean, I think you all sort of know who I am. And the only thing I really want to mention in introducing myself is that my passion for this work is very much entwined with my fear of this work. And I've mentioned this before. I've mentioned this in some of the other men's circles that we run. And the fear that I carry is really from my own childhood wounding around being abandoned by men, being betrayed by men, being physically abused by some men as well, you know. So just I have not had very good relationships with men in my life from a very, very young age, being bullied, being outcast, never feeling good enough. And I grew up very much befriending women. I just felt a lot more comfortable having females as friends, trusting them more. And it's that very wounding and my own journey of navigating that wounding and having to heal myself from that wounding that helped me to realize, but you know, as I'm healing, I'm gathering gifts, I'm gathering resources, I'm gathering medicine with which I can serve other men. Doesn't mean I like being in a space, but it's part of the healing journey. You know, it's my ability to hold space and to navigate or to deal with a little boy inside me telling me it's not safe, or questioning whether I'm good enough to be in this space, you know. So even though I've worked with this for a long time, it still comes up. And I'm mentioning it because I think a lot of us men sort of feel that at some level. So we love to create, Paul and I love to create safe space where everyone's welcome. There's no judgment. You bring your shit, you bring who you are. Doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. And we create the most incredible sacred space of non-judgment. Equal man to man, bringing our fear, bringing whatever's there. And it's just beautiful, you know, whether it's in a workshop or out in the wilderness. Those are the spaces we love to create. So I love doing the work. I don't only work with men, but it's definitely a passion of mine. And I'm looking forward to sharing a bit more with what we have to offer. Paul, would you like to do a quick intro there of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Volker. Gents, how's it? My name is Paul. I have a very similar story to Volker around the wounding I experienced with men in my formative years growing up. Never really trusting men fully, which is interestingly, the wound has actually brought me to this work, to work with men, because it's there that also lies the gift that I have in healing my own wounds and my own past. So the idea of never trusting men because of a power over dynamic has definitely been formative in me stepping forward in this work and creating a space where I can support other men to really get in touch with the wounding that they experienced as children, and in order to feel it and work through it, process it, and heal it. I do an amazing, or I facilitate an amazing energy healing modality called life alignment, where a great part of the process is connecting to those emotions that we didn't want to feel, whether it's in childhood or adulthood, and we repress those emotions, and they become dysfunctional. They get stored in the body, and we live with a dysfunction. You know, these suppressed or repressed emotions that we don't feel in those years become diseases, or they become these blocks in our life that we don't realize where they're coming from. It's very psychosomatic. You know, they come up in our lives in all ways and forms, and the only way to really deal with them is to feel them again. So my life alignment training and work as a practitioner and dealing with people's blockages or resistances at emotional level has now coming to the fore in the men's work that we're doing together, and taking people out into the wilderness, connecting them with their hearts. And this is what we're going to also experience tonight together as a collective in the circle, is to connect with our emotional bodies again. Through our physical body, we connect with the heart and actually allow ourselves and invite ourselves to feel those emotions, and feel what it feels like to actually connect to a memory through that emotional field, through that emotional body, and allow ourselves to feel again what we chose not to feel in the past because we didn't have the capacity, or we didn't have the capacity or capability to feel it. You know, when we're kids, we don't often have the know-how or the tools to deal with these hectic traumas and emotions that come up in our lives. So we're going to give you gentlemen a taste of what that's like tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, maybe just to speak a little bit into the nature of the work, and Paul's already been speaking into it to quite an extent. I think a nice way to describe it is what we're helping men to do, and ourselves included. You know, I think it's the journey we're all on. It's literally about clearing the energetic blueprint that we all carry, clearing out the energetic blueprints. And the energetic blueprint is what Tony Robbins would call your emotional home. You know, it's really important for us men to understand, and this is something I did for many years, trying to change our external environments in terms of manipulation and influencing, and you know, getting the nicer car, getting the nicer house, getting the hotter girlfriend, you know, all these external experiences as a means to try and compensate for a feeling inside doesn't do it, right? Because no matter what we're doing externally, we are always returning to the same emotional home. The quality of our lives are directly proportionate to the quality of our emotions. There's no escaping it, you know. So what we are conditioned to do, a lot of us as men, is we are conditioned to avoid the pain, run from the pain, fix it. Don't feel it, rather try and fix it. Through staying busy, through addictive behaviors, all these different things that we know so well. And that pretty much simply takes the pain that we're avoiding and it turns it into suffering. So the clearing out of the emotional blueprints, keeping in mind, the energetic blueprints, keeping in mind that we are all energy, you know, everything is made of energy. And my energetic blueprints, prior to my conditioning, when I arrived here, one with nature, in my flow, I am here. We are all here to experience our full range of emotions. That's what life's about. I wasn't here to permanently be in a state of bliss with unicorns and rainbows, okay? I'm here to experience my losses, to experience the grief, to experience the anger as I experience the equivalent life experience. The difference is, as part of nature, I'm meant to be allowing those emotions to flow through me so that I can keep turning back to my authentic flow state. So I'll feel the pain, I feel the grief, I feel the anger, but through the feeling of it, I'm releasing it, right? Emotion, energy in motion is meant to flow. And then, of course, we get conditioned as men to be tough, to be strong. We don't even know what being strong really means, right? So we build the external muscles, we look tough on the outside, and a lot of us develop a very weak core because we've created this massive imbalance in our energetic blueprints by suppressing emotion. Every time we suppress an emotion, we are literally locking heavy vibration into our energetic blueprints. If we use the analogy of water, so if you imagine your energetic blueprints to be like flowing water in its natural flow state, and every time we have a painful experience and we choose not to feel the feelings of that experience, it's like getting a little ice block in my flowing water, and then I gather another ice block. And it doesn't for a moment imply that we are always equipped to feel those feelings. If I'm 5 years old and someone abuses me, I'm not emotionally equipped to deal with that experience. So my mind takes over and says, we need to keep you physically safe. This is too much for you, and I'm going to lock it away. So it gets repressed or suppressed into the body. The problem is, and this is where most women have got I don't want to call it the edge over us, but their willingness to feel, their willingness to go into their pain body, because they haven't received the same conditioning we have, means that, you know, there are a lot more women gathering in women's circles. The red tents are everywhere. They're doing the work. And we are so scared of doing the work because it's been conditioned out of us. We perceive it as something painful. So it takes courage to put these events together, because it requires a lot of work to get them into show up, because we are shit scared of it, you know. But we need to entertain the logic of the masculine mind, to go, let me explain to your logical mind why you must feel your feelings, why it's important to cry those tears, because it's literally creating an energetic imbalance in your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and it's impacting your ability to flow in life. All right. I have a saying that came up for me during one of my San Pedro retreats recently, some beautiful San Pedro wisdom, which just landed, and it's pretty much a saying that I like to use now, and that is, your heart knows who you are, but your mind only knows who you have been, right? Because your mind only knows your past. It doesn't know anything else. Your mind is always referencing and responding according to who you've been, your woundings, your limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I don't have what it takes. So if we're trying to navigate our lives purely from the mind, as most men do, that's where we get stuck, because the mind is stuck and we're trying to solve our problems from the stuck mind. Our inability or our reluctance to go into our pain body to reclaim our hearts is creating that disconnect between the mind and the heart. So a lot of what we're doing, it's not just about a feel-good process to feel better. It's impacting men on all levels. If you want to create success in your life and truly feel the enjoyment of it with an open heart, that's the only meaningful success there is. I've come across plenty of millionaires who are miserable because they've made too many sacrifices. They've sacrificed themselves, they've sacrificed their hearts. There's no point, right? We are here to be happy, to be joyful, to feel our feelings, and to create abundance. And if we don't return to an internal energetic flow state, it's really difficult to create that flow state outside of ourselves. So the work we're doing is to help men to get back into the body. Okay, this is very much what Paul's going to be focusing on in quite a, won't call it a simple exercise. It's effective, but it's not rocket science. You know, the mind also tries to lead us into believing that the healing process is some complex thing. 10 years of therapy, etc., etc. It doesn't have to be that way. That's what the mind does. The mind is the great trickster. So the mind wants you to think healing is complicated, because that then allows the mind to maintain control. If I just surrender my mind and I allow myself to feel my feelings, I'm already healing right there. We are part of nature, and nature is always wanting to restore itself to natural balance. It does it automatically. Our bodies are naturally trying to restore back to balance. We don't have to do it. We have to get out of the way. We have to surrender the mind, step out of the way, and just be with what is, witness what is, feel what's there, and the healing will happen on its own. But of course, imagine trying to get a group of men together for a healing circle, I mean, a feeling circle. Not going to happen, right? So we've created the most incredible events, which we'll speak into a bit later on, around the fire, working with the elements, under the stars, surrounded by the Cedarburg Mountains. You know, we're creating really great experiences to then do the important work that needs to be done. So we walk away feeling safe, feeling fulfilled, feeling empowered, while having a really great experience with a group of courageous, amazing men. All the men we've done this work with, it's just so encouraging and inspiring to see how fully the men show up from all walks of life. It's really incredible. So I don't want to go into that. I actually want to hand over to Paul now, but that speaks into the nature of the work that we do. Open circles, workshops, wilderness retreats. It's all about, I used to call it the journey from the mind to the heart, but I've changed that, because when I talk about the journey from the mind to my heart, it makes it sound like I'm replacing the one for the other. And the moment I do that, I'm creating resistance in the mind. So it's a reconnection. It's a realignment between mind and heart and spirit and soul, so that we all know our rightful place. Every place is honored. The mind is honored for its brilliance, while the heart leads the way. And when they come into alignment and congruence, that's when we are truly flowing from our power. But to reclaim our hearts, we have to navigate back through the pain body and be willing to feel our feelings. So that's the gist of it. And that's why our sort of initiative, or our group, is called Men of Heart. There's nothing romantic about it. That's where the power lies. Our power lies in an open heart. Courageous love, fierce love, you know, that's what it's about. It's that warrior love. There's nothing soft about it. Yes, it can be soft and nurturing, but it's helping men to understand, what does it actually mean to have an open heart? What does it mean to be loving, to stand up for what's right? And these are all the kinds of elements we are bringing into these journeys and into the work we do. But of course, we have processes that do some pretty deep diving to clear out those subconscious programmings, the limiting beliefs, the childhood woundings. We go pretty deep in this work, but we have to, right? Because we are driven, our lives are driven by the unconscious wounding that's sitting there. And we've got to stop spending all our energy and time trying to change everything outside of ourselves, and start to realize it's an inside out process. So it's the reconnection of mind and heart. And on that very note, Paul, I'm going to hand over to you for the embodiment process to do exactly that.
Thanks, bud. Just check your messages there. I've sent you one. And yeah, what Volker was saying around connecting to our power, connecting to our authenticity, is really an inside job. We all, as men, we often looking at the external world to sort out our problems. You know, if we have the right job, the right family, and we're getting around in the right wheels to meet our perfect friends, we'll be happy, we'll be content. That's looking at life as an outside in job. Whereas where it's really at, where we've experienced the power of change and the power of healing, is always inside out. You start with you go back to the stuff that we didn't want to face, and we allow ourselves to go there with courage. It takes a lot of will and a lot of courage to step into that fire, which is why a lot of men don't show up to these kind of offerings, because subconsciously there's a trickster, as Volker said. You know, the great trickster is the mind, that knows, if we go there, I'm going to have to feel that stuff, and I don't want to feel it. I tucked that away, I buried that 30 years ago. I don't want to go there. That's not what men do. Men don't feel. Men support their family. Men show up for other men. Men are tough. We don't feel emotion. We stay stoic, and we stay insulated from our emotions, and that just keeps us running in a loop. It's not a path of evolution. It's a path of maintenance. And that's not really living. You know, that's, what would I call that? Existing. So without laboring the point, I want you guys to actually experience what it feels like to have an embodied emotional connection. And it's, as Volker said, it's really simple. It's not rocket science. Anyone can do it. It's just allowing, really. It's the allowing that really takes us there. So all you need to do is let go, trust the process, and allow yourself to go wherever your body takes you. So what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes. We'll do this for about 15-20 minutes. And just allow your body to relax in the chair that it's in. And take a few big, slow, deep breaths through your nose and out through your nose. Just keep breathing deeply. And notice that your weight is supported completely. You are held, you are safe. There's nowhere else you need to be. And see now if you can hear noises, even if you're wearing earphones at a distance away. Maybe if you're wearing earphones and you can't take one out. And see if you can hear traffic or the hum of something in the distance. And the drone of the city or the hum of cars, or maybe your fridge. Any sound that you can hear at a furthest distance away from you. Perhaps you hear birds. Just notice, just be in awareness. You don't have to hunt for the sounds just naturally come to you. You notice. Keep breathing. Now focus on a sound that's a little closer to you, maybe within your room or in the room next to you. Maybe it's the sound of the kids or your partner in the kitchen, or the sound of the fridge, or anything that, maybe it's the hum of your computer. You know, the fan, whatever it is that's in your space within 1 to 20 meters of you. Just noticing what's there, being the observer, allowing the sound to find you. Now I'd like you to focus on the sounds that are incredibly close to you, like your breath. Just notice the sound of the incoming and outgoing breath through your nose. Now I invite you to go deeper and see if you can notice the sound of your heartbeat. Maybe you can hear and feel your heartbeat at the same time. See if you can physically feel the sensation of that thud. That energetic ripple. Now you're feeling your body. Feel the aliveness in your body right now. Maybe you feel tingling in your hands. Or you can feel some kind of prickles in your arms. Just notice whatever's there. Notice the aliveness that's in your body right now. Happening right now. A somatic experience of your body. Now what I'd like you to do is remember a memory. Engage the mind now of a memory where you really felt intense anger. It might have been yesterday, it might have been a week ago, it might have been 20 years ago. Take a minute now just to remember an instance that really triggered you, where you lost it and you felt that anger. Go into that memory now and relive it in your mind. Just notice while you're reliving it how it makes you feel. And at a deeper level, scanning your body head to toe, where do you feel the sensations of that emotion in your body? Just gently use your mind to scan through the different areas of your body and find an area that feels like that energy is amplified in. Yeah. Give yourself permission just to feel that energy of that emotion as a physical sensation in your body right now. Could be anywhere. Just notice a heightened sensation and notice that it's just a sensation, almost disconnected from the emotional vibration that you felt by revisiting that memory. It might have a resonance, a taste of it, but it's just a physical sensation and can't really hurt you. I invite you now to notice not only where that sensation is, but what it feels like. Notice if it has a quality to the sensation. It might be heavy, it might be prickly, it might be sharp, it might be hot. Just allow yourself to feel the resonance in a very physical way, in a very somatic way in your body. Just allowing whatever's there to be there. You're not trying to fix it, change it, heal it, send white light to it. You're just hanging out with it, like you would do a buddy, drinking a beer, not saying a word. You're just there, present, witnessing. You might be a visual person. You might see a shape or a color of the sensation. Whatever's there, just allow right now in this moment. What you're doing right now is feeling the energetic resonance, that energetic blueprint of that emotion, of that anger that you felt in the past. You're feeling it in your body. And you're allowing that energy of that emotion to be processed through feeling it, through paying attention to it, through focusing your intention on it. Now take a deep breath and just let that feeling, that emotion, that sensation, let it all go. Just sigh out through the mouth. Just allow it to drop. You might still have the resonance of that sensation in your body, and that's okay. Now what I'd like you to do, to shift to a different kind of energy, I'd like you to use your mind again, engage your mental faculty, and allow your memory to find a moment in your past where you felt intense joy. You were around the people you loved, you were having a joy. Maybe it was Christmas, maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was only when you were a kid that you can remember that. Just cast your mind back to a memory where you were just in absolute joy, exhilarated, excited. You just felt alive. Bring that moment up now and relive it in your mind's eye. Notice where you were, who you were with. Feeling that emotion again, that emotion of joy. Feeling it through the emotional body. Now the same way we did with the last emotion that we felt. Use your mind to scan your body and feel where you're feeling that emotion of joy in a very tactile, sensatory way. See where that joy feels amplified for you. Could be anywhere. Just keep scanning until you feel an area that has a heightened sensation. Amplified. It's the emotional folder that you're opening of that memory. And it's stored somewhere in the body. Just feel it. Notice what that sensation feels like. Notice what it is. Is it light? Is it tingly? Is it expansive? Is it hot? Is it cool? Notice all the details of this sensation that's just in your body right now. Every minute little detail, every sensation. Just allow it in. Allow yourself to feel it fully. Perhaps it's a visual that you get. You might see a color, a texture, shape, whatever's there for you, allow it to be there. If you only feel it, then feel it. If you can only see it visually, then see it. Whatever is coming up for you is perfect, is right. Trust that. Trust that. Allow yourself to feel that emotion in a very physical way in your body. Also noticing that maybe it was in a different place that you felt the anger. Perhaps even it had a very different quality to it, a different vibration, different texture, different sensations that were attached to that emotional memory. Notice the difference between the two. Notice the difference of how they feel in your body. Feeling through the physical, feeling through the emotional. And just take a long, slow, deep breath and just let it go. Let this whole process and exercise just release. Keeping your eyes closed, keep breathing deeply. And just inviting curiosity with the idea that the body could potentially store emotion. The body could store that energetic frequency somewhere in our cellular memory that we can again access through the physical. And when you're feeling present back in your body, just notice the aliveness again throughout your body. You might feel a tingling now that you're tuned into your sensations of the body. You might feel it, that aliveness, more palpably, more viscerally, more intensely. Just allow whatever is there to be there. Just notice the aliveness that is you in your body right now. And when you're feeling ready, you can slowly, gently move your fingers. Come back to the room that you're in and slowly open your eyes. Great, guys. Nicely done. So the mind that is present in you right now might be asking the question, why did we just do that exercise? What was the point of all of that? And it's really about letting go of processing our reality with our mind and allowing ourselves to connect to another intelligence that's very much somatic, very much physical, very much embodied, that can have access to an emotional from the past, a memory that's actually physically ingrained and stored in our body. And we say in life alignment, the modality that I practice, you've got to feel it to heal it. If you don't feel it, all you're doing is you're trapping that emotion in a very physical, solidified way in your body, in your cells. And that can manifest in all sorts of ways: tumors, cancers, uh, eczema. It doesn't matter how it actually materializes. It might just materialize in a dysfunctional relationship with a person. It might actually not be a physical um, manifestation, but all the stuff that we felt and we didn't want to feel, and we said, I can't do this now. I don't have the time, I don't have the capacity, I don't have the inclination or the willpower, or whatever it was that your mind thought at the time, I can't deal with this. We suppressed it, or we repressed it in our past. And that now sits as an energetic block in our bodies. So the idea really is to give you a taste of what it feels like to connect to the heart. And the only way to connect to the heart is through the body. And through that connection, there is a deep wisdom, there is a deep resonance of truth that we can connect to when we move through that portal, which is the heart, which I use synonymously with the emotional body. And we tap into an intelligence and intuition that is immensely more powerful than the mind. Greg Braden talks about the magnetic resonance around the heart being multiples of the magnetic resonance of what the mind actually generates. Our heart is has an incredibly powerful field, and tapping into that power allows us to really tune into a deeper intelligence that isn't running in circles trying to maybe compensate for a wounding that we had in our childhood that we've just chosen not to feel. Yeah, so it was to give you a taste of what it feels like to actually connect to the body, connect to the emotional body, connect to that field of intelligence that can only be experienced through feeling, cannot be experienced as an analytical idea. So even though it's simple and we think, yeah, well, I felt that, it was relatively simple, I could do that in my sleep, we don't do it at all. We process our world, in the vast majority of us, especially men, through our mental faculty, through our mental body. And whereas women more in tune with the emotional body. They feel their emotions, which is why it's often difficult for us to relate. Logically, we want to resolve the tension in a relationship, perhaps with a woman, whereas they just want to express the emotion of it and want us to actually connect with the feeling of that emotion. But if we're stuck in our logical, analytical minds, it's very difficult to connect on that level. So yeah, a little taste of what we do, Volker and I, on our men's calls to adventure, where we take men from it isn't, as Volker said, it isn't a journey, but it's an experience of moving from a head-based reality to a heart-based reality, where our authentic power is really lying. It's untapped. So we're tapping into that field, that power. And Volker is going to talk a little more into that, around the processes of how we actually take men on that journey, that hero's journey. Thanks, guys.
Oh, thanks, Paul, brother. Thanks so much for that. It might be worth just mentioning as well. So what we experienced, was a seemingly simple exercise, but when you turn it into a practice, it becomes really, really powerful. And by practice, what I mean is when you get triggered emotionally, whether it's triggered into anger or triggered into fear or anxiety, the best thing you can do in that moment, instead of projecting onto the source of that, or, well, the source is actually from within you, but we perceive the source to be outside of ourselves. But what's actually being triggered is something that's been inside you for a long time. And this practice is great when you get triggered into an emotion, and then you can separate yourself and just sit with that emotion and feel it. Just feel it. It's also really important to make sure that you're feeling it and not fueling it. All right? Because the moment I'm feeling, let's say I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling fearful about something that's about to happen or something that did happen, and this fear comes up. If I sit there and I start bringing labels to that feeling and judgment to it, I'm no longer feeling it. I'm now fueling it. I'm adding to it, which is not serving the purpose, right? Which means I'm sitting there going, I'm feeling anxious. This is not good. It means I'm not capable. It means it's going to get worse. I'm going to screw that thing up. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually getting anxious about my anxiety. That is very different to just feeling my anxiety as a feeling without labels, right? So to make this process work, or to allow it to work, it's feeling the feeling with no judgment, no labels, no stories. The mind can come and go, but what Paul did now was an embodiment. We weren't adding anything to the feeling other than just being with it and witnessing it. So I said to you earlier, you know, the body naturally knows how to restore itself to balance if we just step out of the way. The moment I allow myself to just witness a feeling that's already inside me, the mere witnessing of it allows my body to release it. And then my body starts to restore itself back to balance. So you just feel it. Practice feeling your feelings, and you'll feel how your vibration starts to increase. It's obviously more complex than that in terms of the healing journey, which is why we go a lot deeper. Some of our processes are a lot more, I don't want to say intense, not scare people off, but some men need a push, you know. This experience isn't going to cut it for a lot of men. They need a push. So we bring in some radical processes to really go there. Some men need to reclaim lost parts of themselves. You know, people who are suffering from depression, if I'm sitting there feeling this emptiness that this depression is causing, it might not help to just feel it, because I might have lost a part of myself that needs to be reclaimed. You know, every time we have an experience that doesn't get processed properly, trauma, you know, it's usually the more intense kind of experiences, neglect and abandonment and traumas and abuse. When those experiences happen to us and we aren't held in a particular way to process that experience, there's a splintering that happens. So not only am I locking the energy of the emotion into my body, I'm losing a part of myself in that process. There's a splintering off. So I lose a part of my inner child. A little piece of my heart gets lost in that. And so I grow up with this emptiness that leads to depression. And then because it sucks to feel that way, I'll go and drink my beers or you know, take on some addiction to numb the pain. Antidepressants, you know, numbing the pain, but not reclaiming myself back to wholeness. So the processes we do, and this might be a good time just to go into the journey that we take men on. It's about returning to the authentic self, back home, back to wholeness, reclaiming ourselves, eliminating the judgments of ourselves and others, forgiving ourselves and others. So we follow pretty much the Joseph Campbell hero's journey. Many sort of well-known movies have been inspired by Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. From The Lion King to King Arthur to Star Wars, The Matrix, Superman, there's a whole bunch. It's really the journey of sort of forgetting who we are, losing ourselves to an identity, losing ourselves to a personality. And I don't want to go into too much detail because it's that on its own is an hour-long discussion. But pretty much what happens as we are born, prior to our conditioning, prior to our wounding, we are born whole, connected into everything, connected to our heart, connected to eternal wisdom. And then we experience the first 7 years of our life, which is the phase of individuation. It's the period of, or the phase of becoming an individual that sense of separateness. There's a me and there's a you, which wasn't there before. And what we're doing in those first 7 years is we are observing how we are treated by our caregivers. Is my mother loving me? Is my father seeing me? Am I loved? Am I seen? And none of us are receiving that attention to the desired level, because if you think about the fact that our grandparents were fighting wars literally to keep families alive, there wasn't time for emotional well-being and, you know, pat on the back, my boy, you're doing great. That didn't happen. So many of us men, this generation, we've been raised by wounded men who were raised by wounded men. And some of us were raised by no men at all because they just weren't there. All right. So in those first 7 years, we very quickly forget how powerful we are. We forget that we are multidimensional beings transcending all time and space, and that there's a part of me, there's a part of my subconscious reality that is plugged into all reality, which is my intuition. So my intuition has answers to everything I ever want to know, but I don't even know it's there, right? I'm stuck in my identity. I'm stuck in my personality. And what ends up then is I end up spending my entire life choosing behaviors to compensate for what I'm lacking. We actually use the Enneagram, an incredible modality. Ancient wisdom goes back 3,500 years, if not longer. And we use the Enneagram to help you understand your specific personality traits. What Enneagram number are you? How did that develop, right? Because our personality develops from our identity. It's because of my wounding and what I perceive to be lacking within myself that I developed a personality in the first place. Because my personality it's a role play of sorts so that I can be accepted by the world. I might be the 2 on the Enneagram, which is the people pleaser. They're actually known as the caregiver. And when they're in a healthy space, they are the caregiver. When they're carrying their wounding, they are the people pleaser, because the only way they receive love is by caring for others. Because they have this deep belief that they're loved for what they do, not for who they are. And that's just one number on the Enneagram. So we use the Enneagram to help you understand what is your personality? What are the kinds of compensating behaviors that your personality is always doing, robbing you of your energy, keeping you completely distracted from showing up on purpose as this powerful being that you are and living your best life. So we help you to really get it, right? We do the Enneagram prior to even going on the adventure. We then use the Enneagram to help you to link back to your childhood woundings, your core limiting beliefs, and then we go straight there and we start to do the work at that level. So the hero's journey is really about starting with this concept that we're losing ourselves to our personality. We forget that we're this incredible being that arrived. And then there's this returning to self. We meet the wise man on the hero's journey. And that is really developing the understanding, I am not my personality. I am not my identity. I am not my emotions. I am not my mind. I am not my thoughts. I'm way more than that. Ram Dass says, the moment you realize that you are the witness to your story and not the actor in it, everything changes. And that is what we bring, you know, the realization you are not trapped as the actor in your story, the victim in your story. You are the creator of your story, and you're creating your story all day long, every day. But we've got to create a new story, because the moment I think that I am nothing more than my personality, I'll keep creating my old story. I'll keep repeating my old story, my old patterns, right? So basically, it's so important to understand that the mind, as I was saying earlier, the mind is not the enemy. We talk about the mind as being the trickster and the ego as being the saboteur and all the sabotaging behavior, which is loaded with judgments, self-judgment. The best way to understand this is your mind and your ego are your most loyal servants. They are your most loyal servants. The problem is you haven't updated the instruction manual of what they need to do for you. So your mind is looking back and going, oh, you want to go and do a public talk for 2,000 people, or you want to start your new business, or you want to start a new relationship. What do we know about this? And it goes into the subconscious and goes, ooh, shit, pain, 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 not good enough, don't belong. Hey, no, we're not going there. And then your mind sabotages all your efforts trying to keep you safe. Because operating according to an outdated version of who you are. It's not supporting who you're becoming, it's supporting who you've been. So part of the work is to help the mind and the ego understand that we're on a new path. There's a new story, and I need you guys to support the new story. And then we bring the mind and the heart together to do that. So there's this journey of who was I? Who have I been? What's my old story that's been keeping me tripped up? Then we have this new insight, new perspective. And then there's the pacifying of the dragon. You know, again, going back to the mythological hero's journey. Once we realize who we truly are and who we aren't, now we've got to deal with what got in the way in the first place. All that conditioning, the wounding, all those toxic relationships to self and others. We've got to clear that stuff out. And we bring in family constellation, right? Systemic constellation, an incredibly powerful modality, which I won't go into in detail. But what family constellation does, it works in an energy field to clear out deeply rooted personal and ancestral energy entanglements. We are carrying so many burdens from our ancestors, the handing down of burdens through the generations, which we need to clear. And this process helps to really clear out that energetic blueprint I spoke about earlier. Only once we've done that work, and it's probably worth mentioning, you'll notice I said we are pacifying the dragon, not slaying the dragon. Because the moment you reject any part of yourself, you will never find wholeness. You have to love every single part of yourself back to wholeness. That dragon that we are trying to slay is nothing more than a wounded little child inside you that was judged, abandoned, has been ignored, has been left behind. And all that judgment, all the self-judgment and the self-loathing has turned that little child into a perceived monster that we are trying to run away from. So when we open our arms, we open our heart and we say, I see you, let me hold you, let me love you, let me integrate you. That beautiful child returns and comes back to us with all his and her gifts. That is the pacifying of this dragon. It's the healing of the wounding, the letting go of all the judgments, the resentments, going to the cave, the dragon's lair, and retrieving the treasures back to the mythological story. And then only once we've done that, do we go on the vision quest. Because what that empowers us to do is to go out into the wilderness for a full day from sunrise to sunset, completely alone, immersing ourselves in the wilderness and exploring our vision from a place of truth, no longer the place of wounding and the old story. So the empowering has to happen first before we can really explore what is my heart song that wants to be sung? What am I here to do? No longer succumbing to all those compensating tendencies. So that is the gist of the journey. It is very beautifully balanced with sort of modern psychological techniques that really work, very effective, combining it with ancient, indigenous, tribal rituals, walking the medicine wheel, working with the elements, doing the fire rituals, doing the vision quests. So that's the beautiful blend that we bring to the experience. And then, of course, a journey isn't complete without building structure. We do not do the rah, 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 fall flat 2 days later, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we don't work like that. What are we going to do? What specific actions are you going to take? What specific structure are you going to build into your life to honor who you are becoming so that you can't be tripped up anymore? We go all the way. So the whole process ends with structure building. What are the new habits I need to replace? What are those old habits that I need to let go of? How am I going to remain accountable? Which of my brothers is going to hold me accountable? So we go all the way to make sure that all the insights, all the incredible healing, all that we are accumulating on this journey, we are converting into structure. If you take a river and you take the banks away from a river, the river simply dissipates in all directions and sinks into the soil or stagnates. And many of us are living lives without structure. And energy goes or energy flows where attention goes, right? So by building structure that supports who you are becoming, we're building the banks of the river, and we are channeling that energy and your focus into a meaningful direction, taking right action in the world and getting results. That's how we pretty much complete this 4-day experience. And then the idea is to have an ongoing support system of brotherhood that stays connected, including socials, you know, the odd outing in the wilderness, going for hikes, going for the odd cup of coffee or a beer, and actually doing the work, just continuing the work to make sure we stay on track. That is the path we're on at the moment. I'm going to quickly mention the next journey when they are. I mean, Paul, you can add whatever you want to add to that. Okay, but our next men's retreat in Cape Town is the 18th to the 22nd of March, which is not too far away. We are only taking 8 men on this journey. We only went to markets 2 days ago, well, very recently, and we've already sold three spaces. We've only got 5 left. We are taking 8 men. It's very personal, very safe. It's an amazing space we create. Each man has his own tent, so there's no shared accommodation and putting up with other people snoring and stuff. So it's pretty awesome. Gecko Creek in the Cedarburg is where we're holding this event. It's from a Thursday evening, so you arrive pretty much after work. We get started at about 5:30, 6 p.m. at the latest, right through until the Monday afternoon. Okay, and that Monday that I'm referring to is a public holiday, so it's literally 1 day of work. Is it not the public holiday?
No, that's the Joburg one in.
No.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
No,
You're
no,
right.
no.
You're right. You're right. You're talking
The
Freedom.
22nd is a public holiday, yeah. So it's only
You're
1
right.
day of work for that 4-day experience. And the cost of that is at 6,990. But let's chat, guys. If you need a payment arrangement, we can chat. We need to make this happen. All right. For those who need it, we need to have you there. We need to make it happen. And if there's another way for you men to support us, if you want to engage in a conversation as to how we can expand this, how we can really get to more men, you know, we are always open to those discussions as well. And Joburg. The next one in Joburg is the 13th to the 17th of May, and that is at Simakadi in Joburg. And the price for that one is 7,990. So 6,990 Cape Town, 7,990 for Joburg. Paul, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, brother, I think you covered a lot there. Other than the fact that this call to adventure, this men's adventure that we do, isn't just about work, you know, showing up for yourself and digging deep and doing the work. It's a heck of a lot of fun to be with 7 other men in the wilderness, you know, dancing around the fire, doing all sorts of like radical stuff together, going on a vision quest for a full day. It's a lot of fun, actually. It's not just process. And you know, that's part of what we've woven into the offering that we have, that it has to be engaging for men. We're reluctant to show up at the party when it's just about us and doing work on ourselves. So we've created a format where that's very engaging, very visceral. We start at a place where a lot of men can connect, which is the Enneagram. It's analytical, it's head-based, and we slowly start dropping from that. As we go through the hero's journey, we get deeper and deeper and deeper until we're connecting with that heart, you know, through the body that we've experienced tonight. And that's really connecting the two worlds together, so that, as Volker said, you're not just using one or the other, you're integrating them beautifully, and the one becomes supportive of the other, and you're operating from a very different frequency band than you were if you were just using the one or the other. It's an integrative approach, and that's what the hero's journey is. It's returning us to our full authentic power as sovereign beings, as kings. You know, we arrive as men, but we leave as kings. And that's really the essence of the journey, is remembering all those lost parts of ourselves, which is power. We walk away there with not a physical representation of that power that we found, but also the physical experience and the emotional experience of embodying that power, having experienced it. And I invite each and every one of you to join us there so that you can experience that power for yourself. It's a rite of passage for all men. We've lost it in our Western culture. You know, indigenous cultures have been doing it for millennia. And in the last 200 years, 300 years, the Western culture sits in a cultural reference of school becoming a good servant to the system and not really a sovereign being that is stepping forward in our full power. And we're here to change that. We're here to remind you.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a responsibility, especially those of us who are fathers. It's not just for ourselves, it's for our children as well, you know, because what you don't transform, you transfer. So those of us who have been gifted with the awareness that we have the potential to heal ourselves, we have that responsibility to do exactly that. Our forefathers didn't have that privilege, many of them. They were just in survival mode. They didn't know any other way. We are being shown another way. And once we get shown another way, we have a responsibility to make it happen for ourselves and for our children and for their children, you know, so we can really bring this high frequency love vibration. It's that courageous love of taking right action to bring this whole planet back into balance, which is so desperately needed. We need strong men in today's world more than ever before.